to the students, you can smile. Welcome to this match of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament organized by the Corax Foundation. We have two teams competing in the day 3 of the group phase. My colleague Anna Maria Urbanova will be hosting the match, so I give the floor to my colleague.
Good afternoon and good day. Thank you to my colleague and welcome to the teams from Tilburg University of Netherlands and University of West Indies from Trinidad and Tobago. And also welcome to the two of the three judges for this session, Professor Graça Enes and Professor Carolina Vasquez Aranha. Thank you very much for joining the session live. The two teams have received the debate statement they will be discussing today. At the same time, they have prepared in advance. For both positions, they will discover only in a short while which position they will be defending during the match. The debate statement for today's match is that the only countries with relevant territorial waters may have the right to develop and manage the Arctic trade route. Welcome also, just a short reminder, this is the very last match of the group phase and also the very last match of course of day 3 of the group phase. On the side of organizers, we wish the teams best of luck. And now the floor is yours to the students. Mr. Spiridon Kontos of Tilburg University, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon from Tilburg. We're very excited for the last match. We were discussing this before as well. Very eager to debate also, and good luck to I understand our opponents are from Trinidad and Tobago, so good luck to you guys.
Welcome. From University of West Indies, Mr. Marvin Williams, the floor is yours.
Oh, how time flies when you're having fun. Just a few weeks ago, we were presenting at this debate for the first time, and here we are at day 3. We are indeed honored and glad to be representatives of our school or university, and we look forward to this debate today as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. From Tilburg University, Ms. Lulu Samborska.
So, I would reiterate that indeed it seems like quite a short time, but in fact, weeks have passed. But I think those were very it was a very insightful time for me, because just like for this debate, for all the other debates, the preparation was very interesting. So I'm also very excited to debate today.
Thank you. Welcome. From University of West Indies, Ms. Sana Sukdu.
Good day all. It has been an honor thus far to be participating in this debate competition. I must extend my thanks and gratitude to the Hague and the Corax Foundation. I think my colleagues had echoed the same sentiments. I do look forward to today's debate and I wish my opponents good luck.
Thank you. Welcome. And also from your team, Ms. Lana Luchman.
Yes, it has certainly been enjoyable and very insightful being a part of this competition. I look forward to this day 3, and hopefully us together with the Netherlands can move forward and see each other again. But for now, wishing you all the best. I know you all will prepare amazing arguments.
Thank you. Welcome. And also a particular welcome to our two judges that are present for the session today. Thank you very much. Professor Graça Enes, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, good afternoon again. And it's a pleasure to be here once again. And I just want to congratulate the students for all the work they already did. And of course, wish them all the luck for the next few minutes. They will present their arguments and conclude. I think this is the last one, isn't it? That okay? So that's the best of luck for both teams. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, another judge for the session, Professor Carolina Vasquez Aranha.
Good afternoon. I agree with the other judge, Professor Enes, and I wish you both good luck. I hope that you enjoy the preparation for this debate, and the topic is really interesting, so I wish you the best luck in this debate.
Thank you very much. Also, just for completion, the two teams have the coaches that support them in the preparation. For Tilburg University, this is Mr. Rami Fransavi, who's, I believe, not with us for on this live session. For University of West Indies, we welcome one of the two judges, two coaches present already in the session, Professor Dr. Alicia Elias Roberts, who's also supported by with Dr. Timothy Afonso, who's also a coach for the team. Professor Dr. Roberts, the floor is yours.
Hi all, good day. Thank you for the introduction. And like the teams had said before, we thank the Corax Foundation for organizing this debate. And they're all excited. This is the third match, and it has been a learning experience. So they've enjoyed it, and we just look forward to proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My colleague will now shortly share his screen with the allocation of positions. Then the teams will have 5 minutes to finalize their preparation. Of course, there is a time notification, 30 seconds when up until the time is up, and red notification when the time is up for your teams. Wishing you best of luck.
Yes. Yes, so I will share my screen because students, they don't know which position they will defend yet. And we'll know based on the algorithm. So now you should see my screen where you see that for both universities they could be in favor or they could be against. So I click in the center and we'll know which position they will defend. So Tilburg University will defend the position against, so it means as a consequence that will be the University of the West Indies will defend the position in favor and will start the match as well, because it's always the team in favor who start the match. So concretely it means that the University of the West Indies will defend the position that only countries with relevant territorial waters may have the right to develop and manage the Arctic trade route. On the other side, Tilburg University will defend the position that not only countries, so it means not only countries with relevant territorial waters may have the right to develop and manage the Arctic trade route. So now you'll have 5 minutes, you can close your camera and microphone, and in 5 minutes we start with the position in favor, so it means University of the West Indies.
Thank you very much. Your time for final preparation is now up. We'll be starting with the team with the position in favor. University of the West Indies, you have 4 minutes for your opening statement.
Good day all, esteemed judges, organizers, and fellow debaters. On behalf of the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, we are arguing in favor of the proposition that only countries with relevant territorial waters may have the right to develop and manage the Arctic trade route. This is primarily a matter of territorial sovereignty and international law, which are both fundamental principles for the maintenance of global peace and order. Accordingly, we will present this key arguments based on international law that supports the proposition. Firstly, the proposition is supported by the fact that territorial waters are recognized under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, also known as UNCLOS. Under this convention, coastal states have the right to establish territorial waters extending 12 nautical miles from their baselines, which gives them exclusive rights as if they had taken place in their physical territory. This means that only countries with relevant territorial waters can legally develop and manage the Arctic trade route, provided that they meet the requirements under the convention. Secondly, the proposition is supported by the principle of the freedom of navigation, which is another fundamental principle under UNCLOS. While coastal states have exclusive rights within their territorial waters, all countries have the right to freedom of navigation under the principle of innocent passage, which allows them to transit through another country's territorial waters as long as it is for peaceful purposes. However, coastal states have the right to regulate and enforce laws within their territorial waters to protect their national interests, such as national security, environmental protection, and economic development. Therefore, only countries with relevant territorial waters have the right to develop and manage the Arctic trade route, while ensuring the freedom of navigation for all countries. The effects of climate change can be tied into existing principles in international law that regulate the use of resources in territorial waters. This will include the concept of accretion and avulsion, both of which are applicable in the context of ever-changing causeways in the Arctic trade route. Therefore, there is nothing that is occurring in this region that requires any new principles of law to govern existing rights in the territorial waters. In conclusion, the proposition that only countries with relevant territorial waters may have the right to develop and manage the Arctic trade routes is a principled and legally sound position that is imperative to ensure the territorial sovereignty of said area. It is supported by the rights ascribed to countries in their territorial waters and the principle of the freedom of navigation in areas beyond national jurisdiction. Therefore, I urge you to carefully consider these arguments and relevant international law when evaluating this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. Tilburg University debate team, you have 4 minutes for your opening statement.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So I'll start my speech in a second. Dear panel, for the same reasons that the Antarctic Treaty System was established, we think that a similar principle can guide the Arctic region, because we believe that this is a region that has significance for all mankind and it should be available to all mankind. All mankind should participate in governing it. So why is this region so important, and why do we believe this is a global issue of global significance? We believe that its significance is twofold. Firstly, environmentally significant, and secondly, in terms of economics. So let's start with the economic significance of this region. It has immense socio-economic value in terms of the trade that is possible within the so-called global trade triad. This is the quickest route connecting Europe, North America, and Asia. So this means that whoever controls this region gets to control basically all or the vast majority of global shipments, and this whoever controls that holds a monopoly on efficient trade. The majority of world commerce occurs precisely within this triad. So again, we think that this allows states who control it to monopolize it. But secondly, significance is also environmental. So the Arctic functions as the world's cooler through its ice caps, and is home to species which cannot migrate to a warmer region. So environmental damage in the Arctic could have lasting consequences globally, unlike other regions, and could easily this could easily lead to lots of environmental damage, which we of course want to prevent. But through going through this quickest possible route, this is the way to produce the least pollution, and that's why it's crucial that all states have access to it. So why is exclusive Arctic state management, which happens on their side of the house, problematic? Firstly, economically, and secondly, environmentally. And notice that this follows exactly what we said and clashes directly with their point also about protecting the environment. So economically, because it allows states that have these territorial waters to monopolize control of a region that has significance for the entire globe, not allowing these rights to develop and manage would go for other states would go against the principles of free trade, and as well as the principle of non-discrimination that is enshrined in international trade law, because simply the significance is so massive. But notice that this doesn't just mean that we're talking about like on paper trade. This means that we're talking about things like food supplies or like crucial medical supplies or hygienic products going through these routes that are extremely important for these countries. So for example, through not consulting with states such as Belarus or the Baltics that technically don't have territorial waters, but still this region is incredibly significant for them, we think that this is a massive mistake that the other side makes. But secondly, environmentally, why would this be problematic? Where Arctic states with more economic and territorial interests would be willing to look the other way, other neutral actors could hold them accountable. Because notice that if you are an Arctic coastal state yourself, and basically you're imposing rules on yourself because you control and manage yourself, you have no incentive to hold yourself accountable, because perhaps it's cheaper for you to take for example, not decrease your environmental pollution. So we think that uniquely on our side of the house, we also get neutral actors who have other incentives other than trade, and through this uniquely we can protect the environment. Our second argument is going to be about ensuring also about UNCLOS, which is also directly clashing with their point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now entering the rebuttals. For the first rebuttal, inviting University of the West Indies, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
My opponents argue that all countries should have equal rights to access and develop the Arctic trade route. However, this argument ignores several principles of international law, which would include that of territorial waters, which grants coastal states rights over the natural resources within their respective maritime boundaries, including the Arctic region. In support of this argument, I would like to point to ICJ case between Nicaragua and Colombia. In this case, the ICJ confirmed the principle that coastal states have sovereign rights over their territorial waters, including the natural resources in those zones. This principle is established in the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, as we all know, which has been ratified by 168 states, allowing non-Arctic states to participate in the development and management of the Arctic trade route would violate these legal principles and undermine the rights of these coastal states. Furthermore, the fragile Arctic ecosystem requires special attention and care. Coastal states have a legal and moral responsibility to regulate economic activities in a responsible and sustainable manner that protects the environment. Allowing non-Arctic states to participate in the development and management of the Arctic trade route could potentially undermine these efforts and cause irreparable harm to the region's delicate ecosystem. In conclusion, The legal principles established by UNCLOS in the ICJ support the argument that only countries with relevant territorial waters may have the right to develop and manage the Arctic trade routes. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Tilburg University debate team, you have 2 minutes for your first rebuttal.
Yeah. Give me a second. Okay. Your Excellencies, note that the principles 4 and 7 of the Stockholm Declaration establish a duty for states to protect the marine environment from pollution. Managing the Arctic could be a necessary step to fulfill these principles, especially Principle 7, which requires states to take all possible steps, and I quote, to prevent pollutions of the seas. We believe that the most effective way to do that would be to participate in management and to respond to some of the points that were raised by the opposition about sovereignty and freedom of navigation, which were brought up but weren't explained. We don't see how sovereignty is violated, and we also don't see why freedom of navigation cannot coexist with shared management. It can. And about the point about the right to resources, we see that this case isn't about access to resources. This is about trade route management. What does that look like? This looks like monitoring or port development of trading ships that go around the Arctic, not exploiting natural resources. Now, to continue with our case, how we counter the conflict-making potential of the Arctic trade route. We believe that inter-Arctic cooperation has failed, and regional actors have very direct and national security interests, which they cannot mutually cooperate on. Like USA, Russia, and Canada are notorious about the lengths that they go to ensure their claims. And so far, we believe that this failure looks like, for example, the failure of the Arctic Council, which paused recently after the Russo-Ukrainian war. We believe that international management can bring much needed stability in the region through the introduction of neutral stakeholders who only have an incentive on the stable continuation of trade and protection of the environment. On our side of the house, they have a higher stake on trade facilitation and a larger say on what happens. And we believe they can use their political and economic clout to influence Arctic states towards being more cooperative. Thank you.
Thank you. The debate team from University of West Indies, you have 2 minutes for your second rebuttal.
Thank you. And I would like to thank my opponents on the side of Tilburg University for presenting their arguments. However, I must point out that the socio-economic arguments which you have proffered are not grounded in international law. Rather, what we would like to point out is that countries should have equal access to develop the Arctic trade route. However, this argument ignores the fact that the Arctic coastal states have a unique understanding of and a responsibility towards the region. These states have a long history of living and working in the Arctic and have a deep cultural and social connection to the region. So as we understand the economic point, we must point out that this is not the main reason of protecting the Arctic, which should be paramount. I would like to point to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which recognizes the rights of the indigenous peoples to maintain and strengthen their own cultural traditions and practices. Many indigenous peoples in the Arctic, such as the Inuit and Sami, have lived in the region for thousands of years and have a unique understanding of the environment and the resources that it provides. Additionally, the Arctic coastal states have established several agreements and initiatives aimed at promoting cooperation and responsible development in the region. For example, the Arctic Council, which includes representatives from indigenous peoples, has been successful in protecting the coastal states. My friends on the other side have said that this has not been successful. However, they have proven to protect the polar bears. They have protected the migratory birds who are indigenous to the region. And this is the protection that we are talking about. To do anything else would be a danger to the Arctic Circle. Additionally, paragraph 97 of chapter 20 of the UNEP manual speaks to the protection of these indigenous communities. In conclusion, our esteemed judges, I prefer our judges to consider the legal and social principles established by the UNDRIP and the Arctic Council would support our argument that the Arctic coastal states have a unique understanding. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. Tilburg University debate team, you have 2 minutes for your second rebuttal.
So we're having a bit of a technical issue.
Technical, yes. But am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Is this good for you?
Yes, okay. Dear panel, note that the right of innocent passage which they're referring to and the freedom of navigation, also by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, is actually granted to landlocked states. It's established by Article 19 and Article 87.1a and a bunch of other articles that we believe cannot be ignored. Just because you're a landlocked state, we think still, because of this global significance that we explained, you should be able to participate in this management. So let's move on to my last argument, which is about the inclusion of non-Arctic states is going to lead to better trade efficiency and environmental protection outcomes. Notice that this also clashes with their point about about environmental protection. Because of A, technological know-how, and B, maximization of resource investment, which is very important due to lack of infrastructure, these two things are necessary to tackle exclusive problems of the Arctic. So what is this problem? So for example, so we see two main problems. Firstly, extreme weather conditions and a profound lack of infrastructure in the coastal regions around the main Arctic routes. This means like influences communication, mapping of the area, remoteness from primary resources such as fuel and food, and unconventional conditions that increase the chance of human error. Generally, we believe that Arctic states cannot develop the infrastructure they need by themselves, and this includes that they cannot manage that they cannot not manage their responsibilities on themselves, because generally we think that it's not true that climate change has been solved, but rather we see that these states are clearly struggling with holding themselves accountable. And we think that other, as we said, neutral actors that we uniquely have on our side of the house helping are going to fragment the power of these coastal states and thereby ensure more balance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now entering the conclusions. University of West Indies debate team, you have 2 minutes.
Conclusively, countries with relevant territorial waters should have the right to develop and manage the Arctic trade route. Establishing territorial sovereignty as the cornerstone through aforementioned international law is imperative in supporting national and, by extension, global interests, as well as the protection of economic development and environmental ecosystems. We have outlined 3 key arguments in the affirmative for the proposition, which includes the concepts surrounding territorial waters, as well as the principle of freedom of navigation as purported within the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. I urge you to consider these legal environmental principles as the vulnerability and fragility that surrounds the development and management of the Arctic trade route should be made a priority in fostering global peace and order. Granting the relevant coastal states the right over natural resources with respective maritime boundaries in the Arctic region is key to avoiding exploitation. Legal and moral responsibility should be placed foremost in ensuring that all activities such as economic undertakings are done in a responsible and sustainable manner. Thus, we opine that the Arctic ecosystem is fragile and requires our special attention and care. Securing the protection of our environment is key. Therefore, to disregard the harm that could potentially affect the sensitive ecosystem would be amiss. We cannot deny that the livelihoods of the indigenous people, such as the Inuit and Sami that live within the Arctic, are at stake, and ignoring their autonomy to decide what occurs within their historical lands would be detrimental, not only to the indigenous people, but to the entirety of the global community. Therefore, we stand resolute that countries with relevant territorial waters should have the right to develop and manage the Arctic trade route. Thank you.
Thank you. Debate team from Tilburg University, you have 2 minutes for your conclusion.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Your Excellencies, two clashes in this debate. Let's start with the first one. Do Arctic states have an exclusive legal right to development? We believe that the government has failed to prove this burden of theirs in this debate. Why? Because they brought up three main concepts. One, they mentioned the concept of sovereignty, but they didn't explain how it is violated through shared management. Countries still have control over the resources after all. Second, they mentioned freedom of navigation, but they didn't explain why we cannot have it on our side of the house. Really, we can, because no matter if states cooperate on management of port facilities, for example, regular laws on the freedoms of ships apply normally. We would argue that states would feel even more confident in their rights being protected if they have people on the ground to supervise them. Third, they talked about the right to resources, which is irrelevant in this debate because managing a trade route and managing resources are two completely different points that use completely different law. So if this right does not exist, should it exist? Should Arctic states have exclusive rights to management because that will lead to better outcomes? We believe not, and we brought up three mechanisms for it. One, we achieve less conflict because we break up the tensions of regional actors that in the status quo have failed us. Second, which we see in the failure of the Arctic Council. Second, we tell you there are going to be more resources to protect the environment, which was Lulu's previous argument. Resources are important because they can, for example, help treat oil spills, which in the status quo are really hard to treat in the Arctic because of lack of infrastructure. And third, we give you a mechanism for international pressure that's going to push Arctic states towards more environmental protection and economic distribution of trade. So for all the above reasons, please against. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This now marks the end of the graded part of your match. You can relax. You can also turn back your cameras on. Well done on your preparation, on your research, and the execution of your research during the match. As per tradition in this competition, we have now a bit of a feedback session, starting with the students to give the time to the judges to decide what they would like to share with the students as well during the feedback. Of course, you will have time to fill in the grading forms and submit them at your discretion and time availability. So that said, starting with the teams, perhaps starting with University of West Indies debate team, allow me to ask you, how did you find the preparation for this topic? And since it's also the last match of the group phase, how did you see perhaps your team change in the approach from the first match? Mr. Williams.
So thank you again for this opportunity. I think in preparation for this debate, we were astonished with the amount of resources and information that was available in this particular topic. The reason is it was difficult to decipher which information would be relevant, which would be more compelling. So the issue was not a lack of resources, it was selecting the ones that would be best and strongest for this debate. So yeah, after reaching day 3 of the debate, we have grown. I see our confidence has lifted, and we owe a lot of that due to our coaches and everyone else around us helping us, pushing us through. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much. From Tilburg University debate team, Mr. Kontos, how did you find the research for this topic? And perhaps did you see a change in the approach from your first match to this one?
This match was very special, I think, because of two main problems. One was about what Arctic trade route means, and we weren't sure at all what the opposition was going to bring up. Were we going to talk about the Northwestern Passage or the Northeastern Passage? And were we going to talk about law of the Straits?
Straits, yeah.
That we went really into that because we also understand that it's not really clear whether these passages are straits or territorial waters, and everything becomes really tricky. But if I had to say that whatever worked on the previous rounds definitely didn't work on this one, so we needed to overhaul the way we worked it out. But all in all, pretty good stuff, and we were pretty happy with this topic because it's very trendy, also very interesting. So thanks for that.
Thank you for your feedback. From University of West Indies, Ms. Sukdu, again, also for you the question, how did you find the preparation for this match? Perhaps did you hear the arguments that your team prepared from the opposing team?
It was a very grueling process, selecting our core arguments. We had a lot brought forward. A lot of discussion was had between the three of us. I must extend my thanks to my coach. She helped us through the entire process. It was quite different being faced with this proposition in a sense because it was a bit more vague compared to the two previous propositions that we were given. So the approach that we took was quite different. I must say my team and I, we grew in confidence a bit from the first match. It was truly a learning process, and I'm very thankful to be given this opportunity. I think they will also echo the same sentiments, and it was an honor to compete against Tilburg today.
Thank you very much. From Tilburg University debate team, Ms. Samborska, how did you find the match? Did you hear similar arguments that you prepared from the opposing team? How do you find the execution of the match, perhaps?
So I really enjoyed this debate. I think it was very interesting because, like Spiridon said, some of the arguments we did anticipate, but some were quite unexpected. But generally, before this debate, I have to admit that I was not knowledgeable on this topic at all. So I think it was a very interesting challenge because like the other team said, I definitely agree that there are lots of resources on this topic, and it's a very contentious issue. And the extent to which it is contentious, I wasn't aware of that. So yeah, it was very interesting to explore that. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you for the feedback. From University of West Indies, Ms. Luchman, how did you find the execution of the match again? And perhaps one question to you, and then coming also back a bit to University of Tilburg, on did you already encounter this topic in your studies?
Well, on our side, we have not. In fact, we've done a lot of international law and environmental law, but we have not done a lot of trade routes and not a lot of Arctic trade routes. It was certainly a lot of new information and very interesting. You know, there's a lot, as our friends from Netherlands are saying, it's a very current issue. There's so much going on with the protection of the Arctic, and it was really interesting to learn about it while there are so many current issues going on with different things starting up. There's the Willow Project, there's different areas where people are really trying to balance out getting the resources versus the protection of the environment. And I think both of us touched on that point really well. I must congratulate Tilburg University for having a wonderful argument. And if I am to congratulate our team as well, I'm very proud of what we have accomplished within the past 3 days. And I'm so happy that the Corax Foundation allowed us to have this opportunity. And of course, thank you to our coach, Ms. Alicia Elias Roberts, for always being there with us. So yes, it was a very new experience, and I wouldn't change a thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So perhaps the general question to ask the both teams at the same time: were you able to use concepts that you were already familiar with from your studies in preparation for your arguments today? And perhaps starting with Tilburg University.
So for me personally, we're doing the same program, but Spiridon is a year above me. So I would say that I just vaguely encountered the topic of the law of the sea in general, and rather in historical terms than in current terms. So this was definitely something new when it comes to yeah, my current curriculum, but like I said, it was interesting to learn.
Lulu is understating a bit here. When she's saying historically, she means law for privateers, which is truly historically. But yeah, truth is that we haven't gotten too much into modern unclos, although second year we do talk about it a bit more. But I would also like to take this opportunity to say also thank you to the University of West Indies for competing with us today. It really was a pleasure, and I think, and I think also Lulu thinks that this was a really interesting match, and we had a lot of fun, and we thought everything was really good. So thank you to Corex Foundation as well from our side. I felt like the guys from the University of West Indies were very kind before. So thank you for your good words also. So thank you.
Thank you very much. On the side of organizers, we're always happy to connect the students and also bring new topics and see how you handle them during the preparation and match. That's it from University of West Indies. You mentioned that you didn't encounter specific items that were used for this match, but were you able to use the concepts that you learned during your studies, perhaps?
Yes, of course, various principles we learned in class, public international law, even human rights laws. We were able to apply some of these, yeah, even environmental law, some of the principles that were taught and learned, we were able to use them to help assess many of the resources that we would have come across. And yeah, so it is a new developing the whole Arctic issue is a new one, and we have to, as a global community, as an international community, find ways to, continue. As we say, law is an ever evolving thing, so we have to continuously try finding ways to develop and make sure the law is in line with the reality of what is. So yeah, we thank you. Sip.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback. Giving the floor to also Professor, that is one of the coaches for the University of West Indies debate team, Dr. Roberts. How did you find this match, the execution of your team and the opposing team, perhaps?
Right. Thank you again for this opportunity. I think it was a very good match. As the students indicated, this is not an area that we normally would lecture on the curriculum, but it was something that they were able to research, find relevant material, and apply knowledge from other areas, as they said, from public international law, international environmental law, and they said even human rights, to look at the principles surrounding the Arctic Council and that region and how it would be applicable to debate on the proposition that they had. So it was good. Both teams, I'm impressed from Tilburg also that university said that they haven't studied this area, but listening to them, they sounded like experts in the area. So both teams I congratulate that they brought to the debate a high level and evidence of research and commitment to work, and they took it seriously, they took it on, and good job both teams. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now giving the floor to the two judges present today on the live session. Thank you very much again for joining live. Professor Enes, how did you find the match? If there's something you would like to share with the teams now.
Thank you. It was very, very interesting, and the subject is not only of very actual, very at the moment importance, but yes, and it's quite a tricky question, I think, because the arguments from both sides, they are the same, but from a different point of view. And that was very interesting to see. And I want to congratulate both teams for the work they have done, because it was very clear that they've done research work. They were very committed to that. That was clearly shown. And to the Corex Foundation too, I want to thank to because it's always interesting to provide this fora for debate for different students from different origins, and for us also to be here and testify their effort and their results, because they are on a very good way for being future international lawyers. So that's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. And again, from our side, it's an honor to be able to share the students' progress with you. And we are always very delighted to be able to provide the feedback every judge provides to the teams. All right. Speaking of Professor Carolina Vázquez Araño, if there's something you would like to share with the teams on the session?
Thank you. It was a pretty intense debate, and I was delightful listening to the arguments of both teams. But I think that I have a really tough task ahead because grading this match is going to be very difficult. Congratulations to all of the team members and coaches. You all demonstrated that you have been working hard and doing the necessary research of case law and hard law to defend each position. And especially because the Arctic regime is a very specific topic, as you all said, that you haven't studied it in your international law course, or also if you have studied environmental law or the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Seas, it has particular characteristics which make it very difficult to understand and to defend the statement that you had today. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you. I hope to make more detailed comments in the grading forum.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'll be passing now the floor to my colleague who will be closing the session, and also with our traditional get to know each other between the teams and those present on the session to see if there's any potential connection already in place between the teams.
Yes. So many thanks, and of course I will not take too much of your time before closing. So yes, as tradition, I will ask everybody the possible connections. So Mr. Contos, have you been in the Caribbean islands? Do you have any Caribbean friends eventually?
I've never been in the Caribbean islands, but you'll be surprised because I have many Caribbean friends. And even more surprising is that I've met most of them here in Tilburg. So, very well represented community here in Tilburg. But always I would like to have more.
Okay. So you have some more in the room today. So yes, Mr. Williams, have you been in the Netherlands? Have you met some Dutch people maybe in Trinidad?
I have never actually been to the Netherlands. It is on my checklist of places to go, though. I do look forward to probably someday meeting up with my friends over there, and they take me around and show me around their beautiful country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Miss Somborska, have you been in the Caribbean? Do you have some Caribbean friends?
So unfortunately, my answer to both questions is no. However, I would really want to travel there, and that's definitely also on my bucket list. So yeah, I can't wait for that. And it was very nice to indeed encounter a team like that, because I think, as we said, this was a very pleasurable debate for us, and it was very interesting. So yes, this is still an adventure that awaits me. However, if I may pose the question still to the other team, the options also that you have other than the Netherlands are: have you traveled to Poland or Greece? Because Spirit is from Greece and I'm from Poland, so perhaps that's something that you could say.
So you can answer indeed, Mr. Sugdeo or Mr. Williams or Miss
I personally have not been to any of the listed countries, Netherlands, Poland, Greece, but it is on my bucket list. I would love to visit Greece one day. It is like my top priority right now. I'm working towards that. But we are welcoming you guys to Trinidad. You should visit one day. We will be happy to introduce you to our culture. It's very diverse and it's a melting pot. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Miss Lutschman, So I will give you a very difficult question. Have you been either in the Netherlands, either in Portugal, either in Colombia? Yes, I think it's already good. Yeah.
Well, you gave me a lot of options to choose from, and I must answer no to all, unfortunately. However, it sounds like a lovely vacation spot to jump from each one, and hopefully one day, I mean, getting the opportunity to go to Netherlands, perhaps even seeing The Hague, would be on my bucket list as an aspiring attorney. And of course, extending the invitation for a third time if you will come down to Trinidad. We have lovely beaches, we have a lovely variety of food, and it's so interesting to know that you guys are from the Netherlands team, but also from different countries, from Greece and Poland. That to live there and to, as one of our friends said, he has a lot of Caribbean friends. To know that the Netherlands is so diverse as to include persons from the Caribbean, it's definitely it really makes me want to visit more, knowing that it has some of the diaspora there. So definitely would love to try it.
Okay, many thanks. I have a sub question because I have some Caribbean roots from my mother. Every time we talk about Trinidad, we talk about the steel band, the instruments you play, right? So, any of you play steel band or not?
I learned steel pan in high school, but unfortunately, I lost my knack for it. So hopefully I regain that.
Yes. So yes, if you don't know, you can look at what is steel band. It has a very particular sound, and it is played for the calypso music, I think. Yes.
Yes, and it's also a national instrument in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes. So now for the judge, a very difficult question again. Have you been in the Netherlands, in Trinidad, in Greece, in Poland? Professor Gracia Enes.
Well, yes, in Netherlands, yes, I've been there. I've been in Rotterdam just like 2 weeks ago, I think. And yes, I've been at The Hague, at Amsterdam, yes, at Maastricht, but not Tilburg. Tilburg just passing by on the train, not more than that. And at Greece, yes, some years ago, not quite a long time ago, but not at the Caribbean, not at the Trinidad, or no. But I would like to go there, so maybe when I have the chance, I will contact you and I will ask for your hostage there because I would like very much to go there.
Yeah.
Thank you. And well, I invite you all, students and also my colleagues, to come to Portugal, to Porto particularly. And well, right now we have quite good weather, quite almost as good as at West Indies. That's quite for sure, like 25 degrees Celsius right now. So it's almost summer.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you are welcome also for that.
Yes, I will certainly go to Porto as well. I've never been. I've been in Lisbon, but not in Porto. Professor Vasquez Arango, have you been in Portugal, in the Netherlands, in Trinidad, in Poland, in Greece?
Well, I have been in the Netherlands, but only in Amsterdam, and I have been in Portugal also, but only in Lisbon and Évora. And I haven't been in Trinidad and Tobago, and I think that it's a pity because we are not really far. We are not really far away, but I think that they have a deeper relationship with Venezuela rather than with Colombia. And I don't know if we have direct flights to Trinidad, to Puerto España. I don't know, but it's not a common place to visit. Being here in Colombia, when we go to the Caribbean, we have our island in the Caribbean. We have San Andres Island, and also sometimes we visit Cuba or I don't know, or maybe República Dominicana, but it's not a common place to visit. But I would like to.
Okay.
And in Poland and Greece, no, I haven't been there.
Okay, so I think Ms. Samborska needs to invite everybody and Mr. Kantos as well, everybody in your country. Well, I've been in Greece and in Poland personally already, but yes.
Yes, absolutely. We invite all of you, since I don't think anyone has said that they have been in Poland so far, you're very much welcome to come. However, I do recommend to choose either one of the very hot months or one of the very cold months, because yeah, we do get lots of snow, probably more than in the Caribbean. uh, so we do invite you. It's gonna be great. Definitely don't hesitate to contact us if that's something that you want.
Oh yes. So now the very last person I will ask, of course, is even more countries. Huh? So Dr. Alicia Elias Roberts, have you been in Colombia, in Portugal, in Netherlands, in Greece, in Poland, and in Slovakia? Because my colleague is in Slovakia this moment.
Only the Netherlands. So I spent some time at the Hague Academy of International Law, visited the International Court of Justice there, went around to the International Criminal Court, looked at the Permanent Court of Arbitration. So I visited the different centers dealing with international law as a United Nations Fellow for International Law. So I visited the Netherlands, but not Poland, Greece, the other countries, Colombia, Portugal, I would love to visit. And I'm actually from Guyana in South America. So close to, yes, but I work in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
welcome you all to Trinidad and Tobago. Yes.
Yes, certainly. Many thanks. Yeah. Many thanks. So I think I will release everybody because it has been a long session, but simply because there are many interesting persons and from different parts of the world. So many thanks. In a few days, of course, we'll release the results from this match and as well which teams will go to the 8th of finals. And there will be as well a networking event for everybody in 10 days around from now. So of course we'll give some information on by email, but you are all welcome, obviously. And yes, so it will be a moment when we'll have all the teams and all the judge and coach eventually. So yeah, we'll give you some information about it very soon. But many thanks as well to my colleague, Ms. Urbanova, and we keep in touch. So all greetings in the Netherlands, in the West Indies, in Portugal, in Colombia, and in Slovakia. Thank you. Bye bye.
Everyone, well